The following was originally published in 2018, and while I stand by the critiques of The Last Jedi I make, I deeply regret any direct personal attacks I make against Rian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, or any other employee of Lucasfilm. Those comments were made in anger and frustration, and I will do a separate video about that after this series.
Well, we made it. After more than 8 hours of analysis, we are done with The Last Jedi. Well, almost. Today we're going to review the scoring method and the final score for the film. And while some may find this to not be the most exciting of my videos, it is a necessary video in order to really put the rest of the review in proper context. We need a little bit of closure here. I'm not ignoring you. Now, speaking of ignorance, let's talk about The Last Jedi a little bit. First and foremost, if you watched all 8 hours and 16 minutes of my review of The Last Jedi all the way through, thank you. As much as I hate the film, I actually had a great time doing the review, and I got to know a lot of you in the process, and I really got to appreciate a lot of you guys. And while last time on Anti-Trekker, I said that the last time was the last time I would ever say last time on the Anti-Trekker when digging into The Last Jedi, and now I am in fact saying last time on the Anti-Trekker. Well, this is not a part of the review proper, so it doesn't count. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, it is time to talk about a couple of things. First and foremost, the final score of the film. At the end of the day, we counted up 132 good things in the film, 43 neutral things in the film, and 808 bad things in the film. So we need to do the math to see where we ended up. And in case you want to know the mathematical formula used to calculate it, well, G equals good, N equals neutral, B equals bad, and here is the actual formula that I managed to devise. Now, in order to test the formula, I decided to use 3 scenarios. One if the movie was perfect, one if the movie was the worst possible film ever made, and one if the movie was completely mediocre. For our perfect movie, our final score would be, we'll say, 100 good, 0 neutral, 0 bad. Let's plug that into the formula and test it out. So we start out with our base formula. We then substitute the good score, G for 100, N and B for 0. Obviously, then we simplify terms, and we end up with 10 out of 10. In other words, an absolutely perfect score. All right, so now let's go to a completely mediocre film. So in this one, our test score is going to be 0 good, 100 neutral, and 0 bad. So once again, we start with our formula. We replace the terms with the actual numbers. We simplify, and we end up with 5 out of 10, a perfectly average film. And so there you go. So far, we're doing great. So now let's look at our really, really bad film. So in this one, our hypothetical score will be 0 good, 0 neutral, and 100 bad. So once again, we start with our formula, we substitute terms, and Okay, so a little problem comes up with the fact that if you try to divide by 0, it simply does not work. However, that would only be an issue if the film had a score that literally had nothing but negative points, if there was not a single good or neutral aspect of the entire film. So honestly, I don't think this is going to be a factor. So we know if we go to reduce terms, we come up with a mathematical error. It's because the movie was so bad that it scored 0 out of 10. And frankly, even The Last Jedi is not that bad. So I doubt there is actually a movie in existence that could possibly have no good or mediocre elements at all. In fact, you could say, just like how our modern mathematics break down within the concept of a singularity, my formula would break down if it was a perfectly bad film. But I don't think that that type of a film exists. That being said, we have not yet seen Solo, a Star Wars story, or Star Wars Episode 9, so I'm not saying it's not possible. I just don't think it's probable. At least I really, really hope not. Because, man, that, yeah. So, this is all just a very long-winded way of saying that I have a mathematical formula that works, with the one exception that it breaks down if the score is absolute 0. In essence, it still works, because even if the math breaks down, well, we just know that the score is 0 out of 10. So, problem solved. Let's plug in the actual numbers and see what we get. Just like before, let's start with our base formula and let's substitute terms. So this time we have 132 good, 43 neutral, and 808 bad. We combine our terms and simplify, and there we go. The official final score for The Last Jedi using the official anti-checker objective subjective film quotient is 1.7 out of 10. This is officially the lowest ranking film in the history of the official anti-checker objective subjective film quotient. Granted, it is the only film ranked using the official anti-checker objective subjective film quotient, but there you go. A 1.7 out of 10, which I have to say is honestly a bit lower than I was expecting it. I was guessing that it was going to probably end up around 2.5 to 3.5 out of 10. But hey, it was a really, really bad film, and I'm glad it's over. When I review future movies, I'm going to use this score as a baseline so we can see, you'll be able to see, well, if a movie scores 2.5 out of 10, you'll know I hated it, but it wasn't at the level of The Last Jedi. If it scores a 1.5, you'll know, wow, that one is even worse than The Last Jedi. Is that even possible? I don't know, because there was a lot to hate about The Last Jedi. I don't think most movies will have a negative score. Even movies I don't like will have a negative score as high as this one. And part of the problem that we came up with The Last Jedi, one of the reasons that I think that the 808 jumps way out there, is the fact that there are movies that are just bad. They have a bad concept, they're badly acted, whatever. But with The Last Jedi, there are so many little things that are bad that they just add up to being a horrible film. From a technical standpoint, nobody would argue that The Last Jedi is a badly made film. It's beautiful to look at. It's not even a badly acted film. I think Mark Hamill probably delivers his best performance of his career outside of voice acting for the Joker. So, what is it that went wrong? Well, it's all the small decisions. Every single one of them went in the wrong direction. The fundamental misunderstanding of how the lore of this universe works. Now, I understand that as a and this is where some critics get really mad at people like myself that get upset about this film. As a standalone film, this film would probably score substantially higher than 1.7 out of 10. Because, for example, the fact that Rey was using the Force in anger and Kylo was calm and collective until the last act of the film, where he suddenly became enraged for reasons. Well, aside from Kylo's kind of bipolar aspect of his character, most people would say there's nothing wrong with that. Which really, within the context of a singular film, there isn't. But the problem is, this is a sequel, and not just any sequel. This is a sequel to a series of films that is now 8 films deep. So you can't just completely ignore all the prior material. You have to work within the rules of your universe. And one thing that I've said ad nauseum is that you can make a movie that does literally anything, but you have to follow your own rules. If in your movie you decide that everybody with green eyes can shoot lasers out of their eyes, but nobody else can, that's great. But you have to make sure that that means that everybody through the movie that has green eyes can shoot lasers. If they don't have green eyes, they can't. Unless there's some direct explanation for why you're violating your own rules. Now, if you make a sequel to that film, you still have to go by the rule that only green-eyed people get laser eyes. If you change that up, if in the next film you say, oh, no, it's people with hazel eyes get laser eyes, not green. Well, now we got a problem if this is a direct sequel and the whole thing with the green eyes was a major part of the plot in the first film. That's what Rian Johnson did here with the Force. He changed the fundamental nature of the Force to where everything works in almost the exact opposite way that it's worked for 7 prior films. It doesn't contradict The Force Awakens as much, but the other 6, it absolutely does. But it's over. 1.7 out of 10, I think, is a well-deserved, absolutely abysmal score. I do have one last video to produce involving The Last Jedi. So join me tomorrow for a discussion on the politics of The Last Jedi. But first, I need to make a run to the liquor store so I can survive that one. Oh, crap. I'm recording this on Sunday, and they don't sell liquor here on Sunday, so I have to wait. F*** you, Rian Johnson. Oh, wait. That one's not caused by Ron Johnson. As much as I hate him, yeah, he didn't make it so I couldn't drink. He just made it so that I have to drink. Take care.
Hit the like button, you will. Likes lead to comments. Comments lead to conversations. Conversations lead to understanding. Go to Patreon and support the anti-trucker you must, if supporting his videos you want. Yes, support his videos. Then listen to this at the end of the videos. You will not